only counts as one.
Hello, my fellow hunters. Today then, the bow, or as I like to affectionately call it, the ranged greatsword. It has proven so much fun in Wilds, and Title Update 1 has been pretty kind to it, though not in the way you might think. Unless you think the way is because we got a few buffs and can have more powerful sets thanks to some of the new equipment, in which case it's exactly the way that you think, but it's still pretty cool. Oh yes, today then let's get into Bow's new best options, the weapons, the sets, and a few interesting little tidbits surrounding the changes to the weapon and elsewhere too. Honestly, one of the most exciting things is the fact that the Convert Element Talisman now goes to level 2, which makes it very valuable because Convert Element is pretty good in situations where it's pretty good. More on that later in the video. For now, though, we have ourselves the big Shia-shaped elephant in the room when it comes to the new White Flame Torrent Shia bow, and the truth of the matter is, well, anticlimactic for how good it looks, because simply it does not come close to our two main best options, chiefly because it's got power coating instead of close range coating, which is just a 10% damage loss, which is really hard to overcome. It's not a coincidence all our best bows involve close-range coating and a healthy dose of raw. And in fact, yes, even with Title Update 1, bow is very much still a raw weapon because the coatings affect your raw and they really don't like element. So that hasn't changed in that regard, as you'll see. But I have been testing it when it comes to using it as a dragon bow against the few dragon weak monsters, where in the pre-title update world, the best bow was the Guardian Arkveld bow, and there is some interesting results there, especially when combined with the aforementioned convert element shenanigans. But before we get to that, we want to focus on just your standard, normal, one-size-fits-all bow buildage, and that's exactly what we'll do. Well, it is in a moment after we go over the changes to the weapon itself. Dragon Piercer took a little bit of a hit, chiefly when it comes to the rate of damage ticks as it passes through the monster, which in my testing is about a 30%-ish damage reduction, but there are a lot of variables, the monster you're firing at, the chief one. That said though, Dragon Piercer is something we will look at separately because the pure Dragon Piercer build is still incredibly fun, incredibly powerful, and actually the most improved build thanks to Title Update 1, so watch this space. So, Power Volley has had a 50% increase to its elemental damage, which is nice, but like it's literally just Power Volley, and as I said earlier, bow is very much still a raw weapon as it currently stands, so while it is a little bit of extra damage because we do want to use an element, it's not really changing anything. Then talking of Power Shot and Power Volley, they're now affected by Charge Master specifically, which again is nice and all, but Charge Master is not going to overtake the very valuable weapon decoration space when we have some much more important skills to be going in there, so it's kind of a nothing change. What has changed in a really nice way though is Thousand Dragons. The motion value on it is about 30% stronger, which means you can, and in certain situations should, weave it in if you get a nice free opportunity to absolutely ream a weak spot with it, so that's kinda neat. There's also a fun build you can do with it that again I will get to, so watch this space. That's kind of it for your mechanical changes. So, without further ado then, let's get into the details with how bow is doing in Title Update 1, what we should be using and why, and all of that good stuff. Starting with, yes, the weapon. So, Artian remains champion, which is definitely a little bit of a shame, but hey, layered weapons, totally. In any case, I have have obviously not covered bow in a meta sense since the launch of the game, and while I've been playing it pretty much constantly alongside greatsword, literally my guild card just has greatsword and bow, I have obviously kept up and been part of all of the discoveries and changes along the road, from that initial tender days of burst is everything to where we stand now, where raw is king. In any case, because of that, the perfect artian bow is quite literally, well, full raw, like so, ending up at 230, which is incredibly tasty. It makes it even harder for our Shia bow to compete, so yeah. But beyond that then, you want specifically two artian bows, either fire or water. The reason we want them is because they are the two artian bows that have close range coating for that plus 40% damage. And that close range coating is such an increase over other coating options that even if the monster is weaker to an element that isn't water and fire, you still want to use these water and fire artians, which basically means that depending on what you're hunting, you look at its elemental resistances, and whichever is higher / weaker between water and fire, you pick that one, and then you will be good to go. Now, there are certain monsters, such as Shia himself, who you actually want to be using a dragon option, and we will cover that later in this too, but for now, for 90% of the roster, you will be using one of these two, depending on if it's weaker to fire or water. So before we just jump into our new armor set, as a heads up, evasion mantle is now the way for bow. The extra duration, coupled with the nerf to corrupted, means it's just really nice. We're already iframing monster attacks with discerning dodge, so this just gives us a monstrous raw buff for a good few seconds after doing that anyway. It doesn't last crazy long, but it's going to be consistently up because of our playstyle for the entire minute and a half plus, so it is the way to go. And the armor set is thus. We want Shia helm and chest, you want your guardian Arkveld gloves, and then your classic two pieces of gore in the form of your waist and your legs, all beta. You want your exploiter charm for 2 ranks of weakness exploit, and this by itself is a nice already 4 weakness exploit, 3 agitator, and the beginnings of antivirus. Getting that extra affinity from the gore 2 set, and then nicely, as it's lined up, we're not doing this because of it, but it's a lovely bonus, we get that 2 set Zoshia's pulse for super recovery, so you will just constantly be ticking up health, which on bow, because you so rarely get hit thanks to discerning dodge and how easy it is to just say no to essentially every monster attack, you do kind of notice, and it's a nice comfy addition just for free. If we fill all this out with decorations then, this is where we end up. Full on weakness exploit, we have 4 agitator. We could technically have 5 agitator, but 1 rank of burst is worth more than the final rank of agitator, so we get that instead. We get the nice 1 valuable plus 10 raw rank of adrenaline rush, and then some nice comfy stamina surge, max constitution, though you can eat the stamina food to get the effect, but you're going to be eating feast for the plus 5 raw, so this just makes everything nice and simple. Then on the weapon side of things, depending on your option, you want either fire attack or water attack, and you want both to come with a single bandolier for a single rank of tetrad shot, as it's the best DPS increase for the combo with the elemental attack. Again, we're not focused on elemental damage, but getting this combo deco is worth more than the final 2 ranks of critical boost, which will occupy one of our 3 slots. This one should be level 3, I just don't have a second level 3, but we do want 3 ranks of critical boost, and then finally your spread deco, as most of your damage is going to be coming from those spread volleys, and this is a nice little bump to that, which all in all leads to quite a healthy set. We don't really need the 3rd stamina surge because discerning dodge is such a good stamina management tool, and honestly you could put something else entirely here if you are incredibly confident at dodging every attack the monster does, but I like the comfort of it. This then all comes together to give us quite the potent output. We have base 230 raw on our artian, and when we add all the raw given by the set and allow for the affinity, we end up with this effective raw. Even higher when we also allow for the close range coating, which of course we will be permanently having on, thanks to discerning dodge, filling up the trick arrow meter, and so on and so forth. 435 EFR being incredibly solid, and damn near equal to the previous best all-round raw set, which involved 4-set gore, but the upside of having that permanent regen from Shia armor. Then, of course, depending on which weapon you use, you either have 23 fire or 23 true water element to be applying with your shots as well, and the output is incredibly respectable. But then we go to what really has been given an upgrade thanks to Title Update 1, and that is Convert Element. Now that we have this charm at level 2 Convert Element, it means we can go from using 3 pieces of Arkveld to get it all the way over to just 1, which obviously frees up set building space massively, and Convert Element was already kind of pushing not just viable but better on certain matchups before the title update. This makes it incredibly exciting for Dragon Week monsters. So without further ado then, we are looking at this then. Your Arc Vulcan Helm and Chest Beta, Guardian Arkveld Gloves Beta, and the classic Gore 2 set of Legs and Waist Beta with that new Convert Element level 2 charm. This gets us the level 3 Convert Element, 3 Weakness Exploit, and the startings of some useful skills. Now, before we go into which weapon to actually use with this, because yes, when attacking a Dragon Week monster with Convert Element, we don't want to be using the aforementioned Artians, we want to be using a Dragon Bow. The Guardian Arkveld one being the prime example, but of course we do have, and I said we'd come back to it, the Shia bow. Before we get into the testing on that, one of the main reasons that this Convert Element set is so much worth your time and consideration in crafting is because Shia himself is considerably weak to dragon, with primarily that juicy 30 on the head. I say juicy relative to wilds, but it's enough to mean that against him, a dragon bow with a Convert Element set is going to overtake the standard raw artian that we've already talked about. And given that farming him is quite a big deal right now, yeah, this is very solid. So the weapon choice then. You have the Guardian Arkveld, which is solid. 2 3 slots is already really good for non-artian. The Dragon, which isn't a colossal amount, but it's still good. 240 base raw is really excellent, and generally this is the best option for Dragon and this Dragon Element Convert set. However, if you do really want to use Shia, you can. It is not that much worse. I tested repeatedly on the training dummy going to 10,000 damage, counting the time it took to get to 10,000 damage, the number of hits it took to 10,000 damage between the two bows with an otherwise identical set, and overall, Shia was only a couple of % worse. And again, that's over a training dummy test over a relatively short amount of time. White Flame Torrent gets better the longer the hunt goes on, and we've done a full deep dive into the skill. If you're interested, I'll link it down below, but the TLDR is that longer hunt, the better it is. So something like Shia, which is going to last a while because he's got a long health, it starts to even out. So especially against Shia, you can use Shia bow and you will be just fine and competitive with Guardian Arkveld. But for everything else, probably Guardian Arkveld on balance. And what is everything else? Well, you want to use this set and one of these two bows if you are facing the following monsters: Rathalos, Guardian Rathalos, Rathian, your Gravios, and then Shia. They are the 5 that this is most applicable to. With decorations in then, we end up with full weakness exploit, your constitution, the max convert element still, max stamina surge, your antivirus, and a rank of both adrenaline rush and burst, which is really, really tasty. This is very much quite potent, and while it is slightly weaker than using the Artian bow with the agitator ranks on a pure raw most monsters, against things where that dragon can really come into play, as I'm saying, this hits like a truck while convert element is active. And if you are wondering convert element wise, it works like the following. You activate it, and then you gain a load of dragon on top of the dragon you already have. So 150 base on the weapon here, we activate convert element, and then we skyrocket up to 330. It is an increase of 180, which is massive. And you activate it by getting hit by an elemental attack, but you can also activate it by discerning dodging through an elemental attack, which is really, really nice for bow. On top of that, once you deal enough damage with attacks that have an elemental component, you will do a burst of damage in addition to what you're doing, that 310 pop-up there. Now, there is a flat damage component to that will always happen, and then an extra little chunk that varies depending on the dragon hit zone of the monster you're shooting, but the point is, bow is very good at kind of pumping out, there's another 310, those bursts. So on dragon weak monsters, it really does start to add up. However, the dragon crackly is the effect that says it's active. It will last for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, it will go on cooldown for 90 seconds where you can't activate it again. So its uptime isn't the best, but obviously the shorter the hunt, the better it is, because you might well just kill the monster in the first 2 minutes of its activation. Not Shia, but the others that I mentioned. Which takes us back to, yes, this is the set. You do have a free 1 slot, you can use that on anything that you wish, and everything else is pretty much set in stone. So, I am a big fan of this. Both main avenues of bow have gained changes and upgrades from the title update, and it remains as ever an incredibly fun weapon to play. Oh, and to point out, in your weapons, you want a spread deco in the 3 slots, you want a critical boost in the Guardian Arkveld, and then you want a single rank of that tetrad shot, if that's the one you're using, and then in your Shia, you want the spread, you want 2 ranks of critical boost, and then you want an extra rank in the 1 slot for 3 ranks, and you drop that bandolier. And of course, the effective raw of this set, maths-wise, is less than, you know, the raw bow with the Artians. It is all about the dragon going up to 33 true element with convert on, and those extra splashes. And that brings us to the end of your bow update for Title Update 1. I really cannot stress enough how much I enjoy this weapon. Of course, Greatsword will always be my one true love, but Wilds has really let me fall in love with bow more than I ever thought I would, as a weapon I've always wanted to enjoy, but always struggled a little bit to get into until now, with just how fabulously it plays. In any case, let me know what you think, let me know how you're getting on, and look forward to some Dragon Piercer action. Like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world our stage. Goodbye.